Bill. Sit it down, baby.
Hey, I don't want to be sitting. I can stand. I might have one of those disabilities.
All right, I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Midcoast Community Council for September 10th, 2013. Oh, here's the okay, anyhow. Council members will introduce themselves.
Bob Klein, Bill Kehoe, sitting. Dan Haggerty.
Lynn Erickson.
Laura Stein.
Lisa Ketchum.
All right. We're going to begin with Nicholas Calderon is not going to be joining us. That's Supervisor Horsley's legislative aide. The Pescadero Municipal Action Committee meeting takes place today, which Nicholas has to attend. He did, however, send me his Board of Supervisors report, which I will read. I'm going to read it quickly because it's so tedious to listen to someone read pages of paper. So if you don't understand, feel free to stop me. All right, so this is a supervisor's report for September 10th. I would like to thank everyone who attended the August 28th MCC meeting and the September 7th Friends of Moss Beach Park meeting. My office, County Council, County Parks Department, and the County Manager's Office continue to work diligently to determine what needs to happen in order for the county to incorporate the Moss Beach Park. Throughout this process, we have and will continue to work closely with the Coastside Preservation and Recreation Incorporation, who is still the legal owner of the land. At the meeting last Wednesday, one thing was clear: the community wants the county to incorporate the Moss Beach Park, and that is what we're going to do. I would also like to thank Paul and Julie Schenkman and Sam's Chowder House for paying the outstanding property tax. Because of their generosity, the property tax was paid today and cancellation of the sale is official. I would also like to thank the Coastside Boys and Girls Club. They played a vital role in this process, and none of this could have happened without them. I encourage everyone to thank the Schenkmans, Sam's Chowder House, and Coastside Boys and Girls Club. Number 2, tomorrow night, Wednesday, September 11th, the county will be holding a supervisorial redistricting meeting at the Cunha Intermediate School Library in Half Moon Bay from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Address is 600 Church Street. The county is encouraging everyone to share their opinions on redrawing the supervisorial district boundaries. The Board of Supervisors will be holding budget hearings on September 16th, 17th, and 18th. During these hearings, the board will be voting on whether or not to approve the recommendations made for Measure A funds. Some of the Measure A items we will be voting on that will directly benefit the Midcoast include the Coastside Response Coordinator, Countywide Bicycle Coordinator, Library Summer Reading Programs, and School Safety Officers. Yesterday, I convened a meeting with Caltrans, the Coastal Commission, and county staff to discuss how to fix the coastal access and erosion control issues at Surfers Beach. We are currently working with Caltrans to determine who will be the project applicant and lead. At this meeting, the agencies agreed that the 3 priorities are providing safe vertical access to the beach, constructing a 400-foot segment of the coastal trail, and shoreline protection to prevent further erosion of the Highway 1 road embankment. On Friday, September 20th, Assemblymember Kevin Mullen and I will be holding coffee with Kevin and donuts with Don from 9 to 10:30 a.m. at the Sheriff's Office substation. This is an opportunity to let your supervisor and assembly member hear your concerns. Both of us extend an invitation to everyone. All right. Neil Merrilees was kind enough to offer to provide his time here tonight to give us an update on the Moss Beach Park situation. Neil is on the MCC Moss Beach Park Committee with Lynn Erickson. This committee we formed to make sure that the MCC was following and on top of any information regarding the park. Neil is also the County Parks Commissioner for District 3.
Well, you took my fire in that you started thanking people, and that's most of what I wanted to do. And I also wanted to thank the MCC, which you didn't do, in that often there aren't very many people in the audience, and that's fine, because when we have a crisis, you guys were here and we were able to get the community here, and everybody got to speak and let Nicholas Calderon, Don Horsley's aide, here. And you know, it went directly to Don, and we were right on our way to fixing the problem. So thank you for being up and running, and even if it seems like there aren't a lot of people here every meeting, that you're here for us in a crisis is beneficial. So I wanted to thank you, and I wanted to just thank the community members that came and spoke. You can watch it again on the web. It's amazing. I hope we have that video forever. Everybody just jumped in. People crossed political lines on the coast to jump in and help out. No conspiracies, just everybody's on the same page going in the same direction.
Boring.
Which I feel is nice. So most people went to Don Horsley's meeting last Wednesday. That was pretty amazing, and that Don was unequivocal in saying that he would work toward getting the county to absorb Moss Beach Park. That's something that had been discussed for a decade, but it seems like there's a good possibility of it happening now. The CP&R board did reform. I am currently chair. And that was done just really to accept the park back. And the first vote that we had was to vote to let the county take over the park. So we voted on that. That's happened. So I feel like we're moving forward.
Did you say it's happened?
No, the county hasn't taken over the park, but the board has voted that that's their preferred choice, to have the county take over the park. So that has happened. A small update is that Bruce McKinney got a call, and one of the swings was squeaking, and Bruce went and checked it out, and it was rusty. And so he took the tot swings down, and they need some new shackles and chains. We're going to put those on. But we've already gotten calls that, oh my God, they're taking the park away. And no, they are not. It was just a little bit of rust, and it will be fixed tomorrow, if not the next day. So no conspiracies here. Everybody's working as hard as they can. Deb McKinney is on the board, and she works as a bookkeeper accountant, and we're looking into the records to see what's going on, or what went on, how to make sure it doesn't happen again, doing a little forensic work. If we have anything to update, which we will before too long.
How is liability being handled?
That's something else that we're working on right now. We found the old insurance policies that it looks like they lapsed in 2011. And so we're going through the same broker to try and restart that. And we should know in a day or so.
Now, how is that paid for, with what funds?
That's a good question. You know, and there was little conspiracy talk about this, so I might as well go into this. You know, so CP&R doesn't have nonprofit status anymore, and not only that, but the bank account lapsed. And so part of me and part of what a lot of people feel is that you know, it might be hard to run funds through CP&R because it has a negative connotation. And so we could start the nonprofit status again, but actually we're hoping that the park will jump in and take away the need for that. So the Boys and Girls Club was good enough to allow us to put the money into the Boys and Girls Club, and the Boys and Girls Club supports things like the park, so it was perfectly acceptable for them to send a parks check to the county. But we'll either have to just run it or come up with the money ourselves, or we'll take donations which will not be tax deductible. There are a lot of people that want to donate money to the park right now, and you know, it's a shame that we aren't up and running as a nonprofit. But it may be that we'll just take a small amount of money and tell people to hold off with their donations until there's some sort of resolution.
Does anybody have questions?
I do. So I know. So if someone were to fall and injure something tomorrow, then there's no coverage?
That I don't know. Since we basically can't magically turn the clock back to 2011 when we last had insurance. As far as I know, the potential buyer had insurance. I don't know if the title has reverted back to CP&R or not yet. That I don't know. And hopefully by the time it does, we will have the insurance up and running again.
Has the county given you rough estimate as to how long it would be before they could act?
No, and the county actually talked about insurance, the possibility of providing insurance in the meantime, too. It's just that this is all happening so quickly that, you know, some of these things just can't be pushed any faster than, I mean, you can't get insurance immediately. They have to, you know, make a proposal and get it to you and accept it. So we're as close as we can be.
Sure.
Working as quickly as we can be. Yeah.
You say the bank account lapsed, is there a chance that money went to the state when that happened? You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely, there is a chance of that. I don't know whether that happened or not, because we don't have any of the bank statements later than 2004.
But I mean, there's a state website or
I know.
something you could search for,
As it turns out, it looks like in 2004, there was between $12,000 and $14,000. So the chances of there being much left in 2011 or 2012 is slim.
It's been nothing.
Yeah, so I don't think that'll be a problem about getting money back from the state. But it would be nice to find out exactly, you know, what happened. Things were paid, but things weren't paid. So we want to make sure that everything that needed to be paid was paid, that we know about.
Leonard, you wanted to ask a question?
Not a question, but a comment, suggestion. There is a land trust that's a 501c3, and there's actually, in this room right now, 2 board members, and the contributions could be funneled through them, and because I think it takes at least a couple months to set up a 501c3.
Are you talking about MPL?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, you really you should look at that and see if MPL is interested and set it up as, you know, parallel to the Quarry Park thing, which I think is now Friends of Quarry Park. You could have Friends of Moss Beach Park.
Right.
As a committee under MPL, similarly to the Burnham Strip Committee also, which is a committee of MPL, and contributions were collected by the Burnham Strip Committee and put in a segregated bank account under MPL's control. So I think that's something you really want to take a good look at and see if that's a practical way to move things faster than...
That's actually something we did talk about. As it turned out, the Boys and Girls Club was more up and running than NPL at the time. I think that may be solved now, I don't know, but yeah, the community's coming together and we're looking at every possible option and willing to take any advice and direction. It's really the community's resource, and it's under the community's control. I was being interviewed by the Half Moon Bay, and I kept saying we. You know, we don't know this, or we would like this, and you know, the we is really the people of the coast. It's, you know, before a few days ago, I was not on the Moss Beach Park board. Everybody's just kind of jumping in together. There are, the amount of support from the community has been amazing. And so, yeah, we've had property lawyers jump in, and we've had accountants, and we've had all kinds of volunteers. And, you know, regardless of who owns the park is going to need volunteers in the future. The park is going to need new swings. It's going to need new chips. The chips have to be fluffed every once in a while. There's a retaining wall that needs a little bit of work right now. So there's a need for volunteers and community activism in the future, regardless of who owns it. And I think I don't have any worries that that's going to be a problem.
One thing I forgot to say just now, MPL is also a land trust, and so potentially they could even be the owner.
Okay, are there any more comments or questions for Neil? Go ahead.
Yes, and Neil, so you were you're on the board. The board was formed just maybe in the past few days.
In the past couple days, we got the old board together, and a couple of the members of the old board stayed on, and some people weren't interested in staying on, so we picked some new members. And,
Could you say who the board is for this?
yeah, let me get this right. The bylaws say that we have to have 7 members, so there are 7 members. So it's me, Bruce McKimmey, Deb McKimmey, Eric Watts, Todd Bazil, Kirsten Barron, and Tim Pond.
Tim Pond?
Tim Pond.
Okay, any more questions?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were through.
So this whole thing happened really fast. And, I'm actually surprised that the vote of the group was done to, allow the county to take full control of the park, so quickly. Was there any reason that vote had to be made in a certain timeframe?
Well, it's something we've been trying to do for 10 years, and the offer was made. And we had a list of possibilities, and that's the A plus 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 possibility. The county has a parks department already. They have rangers on the coast. The county has a pot of money. I want to say there's something like $350,000 in it right now, but it is called the Midcoast Parks Mitigation Fund. And they have to spend that on infrastructure on the coast. And they have been willing to put a bathroom in at the cost of about $100,000 to the Moss Beach Park. I don't think there's, things go slowly and they cost money when you do them officially. It's been working a very long time for the bathroom. We don't have it yet. I hope this didn't throw a monkey wrench into it. But in any case, they have resources, they're up and running. We've been trying to do that for 10 years. And of the other alternatives, GSD is not up and running as a parks district yet, and Moss Beach Park is out of their sphere of influence. There's been talk about MWSD taking over the park, and that would not, I don't want to turn down any offers, and the offer may be needed in the future. But the reason that wasn't the A+++ offer is because, and that's something you may talk about tonight, I don't know, whether MWSD actually does have LAFCO powers, and we didn't want to get into a fight regarding that issue. And we didn't want to get caught in another world. We want somebody responsible to take over this park. The other issue is that the Moss Beach Park Group ended up fighting with MWSB for a number of years over the bathroom connection. MWSB did not want to give us a bathroom connection, and that took quite a long time. Everything has been worked out now, and we're all on the same page. And I thank them for that. But, you know, it's a nice offer. It's just that it's late, and it would have been nice 10 years ago. So, yeah, there are other possibilities. There could be another nonprofit that would run it. The only problem with that is that they might run into the same problems that we ran into, in that kids grow up. My kids are 16 and 19, so they haven't gone to the park in a number of years, and that's what happened to the original board. You know, people get involved in other things, and the park's there, so there's not the necessity to jump in. And the new young parents from Fairlawn View or El Granada Elementary see the park there, and it's there whether they jump in and volunteer or not. So anyway, that could happen with another nonprofit. So the A++ choice was the county, and since the county made the offer, we're going to do as much as we can to follow up on that and promote that and facilitate that. So that was the reasoning behind that. It was not to be disrespectful of any other group or to make light of their offer. We know these are big things to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's appreciated.
Was there, was there a deadline to making the decision, the vote? I mean, was there, I guess I'm not clear on the urgency.
You know what? There isn't really a group of people that want to be on the CP&R board. People want to hand off the responsibility to somebody else. In order to start a board from scratch that was going to be into it for the long term, that would be a different issue. We'd need different people, and we'd need different fundraising, and then we'd be fundraising for CP&R, and then CP&R has this history, so you might even want to change the name. Maybe you'd use it MPL, or, you know, it's just a more complicated situation, and that could go on forever. Whereas, you know, the county is actually getting pressure from other communities that want little parks like this. You know, things grow, development fills in. Moss Beach is not super urban, but it is an urban area without any children's park at all. So, you know, there is a need for it, and it's so inexpensive compared to what the county does just in their daily job. You know, this is nothing, and yet it would be so appreciated by the people on the coast side. So, for a relatively small percentage, a tiny percentage of the park's budget, really good things could happen, which would show the county doing something really good for the citizens of the coast side, which would be a win-win for everybody, I think.
Okay.
Thank you. I want to correct the record. Neil said that MWSD had been, and I'll speak as president of MWSD, who has gone through the file within the last week. The fountain at the park was given to the community by Citizens Utilities way back when there was a huge moratorium. There was a history of leaks, and the water district folks would fix them when they could. We gave notices to the CP&R folks about the leaks, and often the leaks went unfixed for months. And in a community with water moratoriums at the time, and leaky pipes and leaky tanks, well, our tanks weren't really leaking, but our pipes sure were. It was not good policy to have leaks. In about, April of 2009, Talk About was replete with comments about MWSD had refused to give bathroom connection to the park. I would note that nobody had made any requests to MWSD at that point in time. Because of the commentary on Talk About, we put it on the agenda for May and discussed it, because one of the concerns we had was how the bills were going to get paid if we put in toilets. I remember commenting about what the public can do to public toilets to cause overflows and huge leaks, and anybody who's been associated with the park may have that experience. And we were very concerned about that, because at that point we were still working on ending the moratorium and developing our water supplies, and didn't have the water we've got now. But in June '09, we passed a resolution for a water connection and sewer connection for the park. Since then, we have been contacted periodically by Neil, who apparently didn't represent the CP&R, but nonetheless, I think he was on the Parks District then. And we have allowed CP&R to use our engineer at no cost. Usually when people bring a project into our district, we charge them for the engineering time. It's part of the application fee, but because it was a community function, to get the bathrooms in. So MWSD has stood ready to provide hookups since June of 2009. It was not years that we refused, but it was, in fact, everyone who's familiar with the community is very familiar with the extreme water shortages that we had. So MWSD has granted to CPNR over $40,000 worth of benefits over the years. I believe there are still some outstanding water bills, which we haven't sought to collect. So to say that we haven't been supportive of the park is indeed wrong. And since I have 10 seconds, I will note that it's interesting that at the meeting, Supervisor Horsley said it was going to take a change in policy by the Board of Supervisors. And now, apparently, it isn't going to take a change in policy, but just a change in the administration to change the policy to allow pocket parks. And to bring up a point Bill made, I would like to see and that Neil just made, we need to have parks for kids of all ages now, not just for the tots and the toddlers. And I'm hoping the county will work towards that. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
I just want to throw out a bit of information for Neil as long as he's here, because it was interesting. I don't know if this will come back to be a problem, but Catherine ran out of time. I'm sure she would have gotten it. But at the MWSD meeting last Thursday, the man who purchased the park, Michael O'Connell, I think it is, came to speak. And I can't exactly quote him directly, but he's still of the opinion that he bought it legally according to California rules for property auction, which I thought was interesting. So I don't know how smoothly that's going to go, as Supervisor Horsley also continued. But the interesting thing was at the end of it, he did say that if he does prevail, he would turn it over to MWSD. So we definitely have a plan B, as we like to call it, if the county runs into a snag, or anybody does. So, and then, like I've said, I think it'll be a great idea for the county to start putting in parks for people of all ages. Especially, there's no theme parks here. I mean, that's why we have the skate park down there. We have a skate park somewhere up north. I'm not even going to mention the locale because I don't want it to disappear.
It's an outlaw park.
I've heard rumors of it, but I mean, people will find a way, and it's kind of, I mean, Neil just said, what's it, $300,000 sitting out there since my kids were this little and now they're off to college, so it'd be nice to see it happen.
All righty, well, I'm going to close this.
Could I?
You want to have something to say?
I feel like I need to comment.
Oh, please feel
if that's
free.
okay. You know, this is a tiny, tiny little community, and one of the people on the CPNR board was a member of MWSD. So this was a issue that was dealt with, you know, personally and behind the scenes for a couple of years. You know, asking for permission to put a bathroom in, and then, you know, I met with parks directors out at the park. And I was not, I was representing CPNR because they asked me to. I was not on the board. But we did have a couple of public hearings at MWSD, and as far as I know, they're on videotape and you can watch them, and we were turned down. And there are all kinds of different reasons we were turned down, and I've never seen a water bill from MWSD. At the point that we got the water connection in 2009, the MWSD had not been sending us water bills on purpose. Of course, we hadn't been using any water because the water had been turned off in 2004. We took the drinking fountain out. We never put it back because it wasn't ADA. We were waiting for the bathroom. So you can watch the videos and look at the record. But you can't live in a small community like this and hold a grudge. I don't hold a grudge. I hope the MWSD does take on parks powers. I hope they do, you know, give us a skate park on some MWSD land. I think that would be great. So yeah, I don't mean to make light of the offer. The offer is a good offer. It's a good plan B. But yeah, you can watch the videos.
You know what, I don't,
I do want to say one thing.
oh, go ahead.
This is just the spirit of the goodwill that we started out with. If you, as the chair, would write a thank you note to various people who contributed, as noted at the beginning of the meeting. Just a thought.
I'm sorry, say that one more, I didn't quite
Why don't
understand what you
I
meant.
ask you as chair just to write a thank you note for the MCC to the organizations that have been involved and were identified at the start of the meeting as being helpful.
That would
To
be,
resolve it.
yeah, that would be great, I agree, and why don't, if you write it, I will send it and sign it.
Okay.
Okay. Catherine, I don't want to get into, we already did this at the last meeting with Fairlawn View, and this is in the newspapers, and it's in
At
all of
the
the
last
stuff.
meeting at Fairlawn View, I was not allowed any kind of rebuttal. And I think that it was inappropriate, what Neil just said now, and I'm very disappointed in the Midcoast Council for allowing this to go on. I think
Allowing
making
what
a
to go on?
statement, and then getting a rebuttal, and then coming back, unless you want to have a fair debate, it's not right. You should have, your obligation to the entire community is to say, thank you, we've heard from both sides now. And in fact, you have not given equal opportunity to both sides. I will say, Neil, come in and look at the files. You'll find out the truth. And look at your tax bills, because I believe the water bills were on the tax bills. But you weren't on the board, so you wouldn't know.
I will close this and move on to the rest of our meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Neil.
Thank you so much for coming to report. All right, so I'm going to open public comment. Anyone may speak up to 3 minutes on any topic that's not on the agenda. It's nice if you could fill out a speaker slip. The council cannot take action or discuss under the items. What I wanted to do in kicking off the campaign season is to extend an invitation to any of the candidates for the coming election to introduce themselves during public comment. Is there anybody? Great. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chris Johnson. I'm a resident of El Granada for 11 years. Okay. I am living the American dream. I just want to start by saying that. I'm not rich, I don't have a fancy car, and we don't take vacations all over the world, but I live in a wonderful place. I have an awesome wife and son. I do work that I like to do. And let me reiterate, I live in an awesome place. So I am at the point in my life where I have some time to contribute back. I call it pay it forward, okay? I didn't create the situations that have allowed me to enjoy the life that I'm living completely. There are people that came before, people that contributed while I was working 60 hours a week. I don't have to do that right now. I can work from my home. And so while those other people now are doing their job for society and their families, I'm going to offer myself for public service as a candidate for Midcoast Community Council because I feel that I can offer that time. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I try hard and I have the time to offer. And for me, my campaign, I think some people have seen a little piece of literature I had, boils down to 3 words: coast side, community, and commitment. Coast side, obviously, that's the beautiful place that we live. It's a treasured thing. I've lived in many small towns. I've seen them go to waste. I've seen some of them survive. When I ride my bike to the top of Montera Mountain, when I ride all the way down to Pescadero, when I ride to the coast and everywhere in between, and I look down, I see so much beautiful open space and also a beautiful set of communities. And that's what I want to help preserve for the future here. I'm not saying I want to clamp it down and, you know, NIMBY everything and shut the gates and there's nothing, but we have an LCP that can manage future growth, and I think we should follow that. And the MCC, by their bylaws, are required to support the LCP, and I fully support that, and protect our coast and expand opportunities for coastal access and recreation. Community. I talked about it at the last meeting, and I think the Moss Beach Park thing shows it, that it's about the big C community, the community that is all of us living here together, sharing space. And we have commonality there, which are the issues that we face here, which are unique to the coast side. And I think that if we all pull together and focus on community big C, then all of our little communities, the unincorporated communities, will benefit from that. And I am standing here today saying I am committed to this community. There follows the last word, committed. We have purposely, my wife and I, have shrunk our lives down to accommodate our living on the coast side. We do all of our shopping here, even though it costs more, because the people that work here live here, and we want to support them too, so that this coast side community can flourish. I've left my job in Cupertino, and I now work out of my home, so I don't have to make that commute. My wife shifted up to San Bruno so she doesn't have to commute to Mountain View, so we can save gas, so we can spend more time here in the place that we love. That is an indication of my commitment to this community. And also, I just want to say that I know it's a hard job, I know it's a lot of work, but as I said to begin this, I'm lucky enough right now to have the opportunity to participate at the level of commitment that I think is required for this position, and I hope that in November, people will vote for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Dave?
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Dave Olson. I'm a resident of Montera, formerly Miramar, lifelong resident of the Bay Area. I've been attending the MCC meetings for the last year. I've become very interested in coastal access issues and some of the planning issues that face us. I am very dedicated to keeping this area livable, both for those of us who are lucky enough to live here and for those who are visiting the area. To that end, I definitely support more parks on the coast. It's very apropos. I sort of chose recreation as one of the things that I was running for, and of course the issues the last few weeks have shown how important that is. My interests are primarily as a hiker in the outdoors and getting onto the coast. I'm very interested in the coastal access issues, particularly those that we are seeing in Montera, where lands that should be public are not available to the public. I definitely support the acquisition and maintenance of parklands from Montera Water and Sanitary, from Granada Sanitary as it becomes a community services district, and from the county, from any source that we can get them, as long as we can have them and be available to everybody. And that's for the outdoor uses, that's for parks for the little kids, it's parks for and recreation areas, a community center for everybody. I think those are all very important. I'm also interested in planning issues. We've all seen some of the planning mistakes, or execution mistakes, I should say, along Highway 1, where Caltrans has just charged ahead and done things, sort of ignoring the plans that the community has been talking about. I think we need to improve that coordination. I know steps have been taken lately to have coordination with Caltrans, but I also have a feeling that's not really going very well. So that's pretty much all I've got.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Jim Harvey. I'm running for re-election on the Montera Water Sanitary District. I ask for your support. 30 years ago, I was a co-founder of the Montera Moss Beach Water Improvement Association, and we initiated the efforts to buy out and get rid of Cal-Am so that the people in our district own the water. And I ask for your support so that we can continue rebuilding the water district. We're replacing pumps, water mains, sewer mains. We're building new tanks and replacing old tanks. And we have enough water to end the moratorium. We're waiting for the Coastal Commission to give us the final permit, and then the water moratorium will be ended. So I ask for your support to continue in those efforts. Thank you.
Leonard?
3 minutes to go.
Yes.
Leonard Warren, this time maybe speaking as the board president of GSD. Looking at your agenda item for the first regular business item, it's not clear that this announcement fits there or not, so I'll do it now. On our regular meeting date, the third Thursday, which I think is the 19th, the general manager told us at the last board meeting that we would have on that date a town hall meeting, and hopefully lots of people from the community will show up. And it's not planned to be in this room. I don't know if staff has reserved the room yet or not. I hope they did, but since I haven't heard, I'm not going to say right now. But the intent is to not have it here because we're hoping for a lot of people to show up. So everybody should mark their calendar and watch for the announcements, however staff is planning on doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And to be clear, that's the opportunity for the community to tell us both whether or not you want us to do it in the first place and what you want us to do.
Thanks a lot, Leonard. Is there any, I guess there aren't any more candidates here, are there? No, okay.
I'm a candidate.
Yeah, I am too, but I don't think we can be prepared for that. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
We-
Oh, it should roll off your tongue.
We've got 3
No, I'm
candidates
here for the
here.
Midcoast City Council meeting. I'm here.
I have a public comment.
All right, I'm going to open public comment now. Go ahead.
I just want to remind folks that this Thursday, September 12th, is the Planned Princeton Visioning Workshop at the Oceana Hotel, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. It's the first main big opportunity for the public to come and talk about their vision for Princeton and the surrounding area, and I encourage everybody to come.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Excuse me, Lisa, is that 6:30 or 7?
6:30 to 8:30 at Oceana Hotel this Thursday.
All right, I'm going to close public comment if there aren't anybody else that wants to speak, and we're moving on to the consent agenda. These are items that are generally approved as a group without discussion, unless someone requests that they be moved to the regular agenda. I am going to remove the treasurer's report for September. That's going to come under Financial Committee, and I need a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I so moved.
Second?
Consent agenda has been approved. This is the start of our, pardon me? Oh, I'm
That's
moving
okay.
right along.
The train's on time, it's just off the track.
It sure is. And how,
Aye.
yeah. Thank you. Okay. Yes, I
Yes.
don't know what's wrong with my mouth here. Okay, so we have 1, 2, everybody's.
Aye.
Okay, great. Did you get that? All right. Now we're going to move on to the regular agenda, now that we're back on the track. This is the start of our regular agenda, and the council can take action on these items. The MCC uses a simplified version of parliamentary procedure called Rosenberg's Rules of Order. Individuals will be asked to make their presentation. Council members will first ask questions of the presenter. At that point, public comment is opened. Following that, public comment closes. We put a motion on the table just to direct the discussion, and then the council will vote. So our first agenda item is special districts and parks powers. It'll be a question and answer session with the Local Agency Formation Commission Executive Officer, Martha Poyatos. I want to thank Martha for coming out, first of all, at night, and I'm assuming over the hill? Yes. Okay. The council will not take any action on this. This is strictly informational.
Thank you, Chair Stein, members of the council, members of the audience. My name is Martha Poyatos. I'm the LAFCO Executive Officer. LAFCO is an acronym for the Local Agency Formation Commission. There's a LAFCO in each county of the state, and LAFCOs were created to have jurisdiction over the boundaries of cities and special districts in each county. LAFCO is required to adopt spheres of influence, which have been adopted in San Mateo County, for the 20 cities and the 23 independent special districts and 32 county governed special districts. Under LAFCO's authority, in addition to adopting the spheres of influence and conducting municipal service reviews, LAFCO processes applications for changes of organization that might include annexations to a city or district, consolidations of districts, incorporation of new cities, dissolution of districts, and more recently, activation of powers. So adding a power that a district might have in its enabling legislation, but it has not previously provided. And in one of the, I think what's prompted this discussion and request for information is currently pending with LAFCO. There's a Granada Sanitary District proposal to convert the district from a sanitary district into a community services district. And the purpose of that is to add the powers of park and recreation to their existing powers of sewer and franchise garbage. I can answer, I don't know if you want me to review that proposal that the district has submitted and what that LAFCO process is, and then move on to park powers for other kinds of districts. Is that? Does that work?
Personally, I think that would be good. How does the rest of the council
Yeah, I
feel?
agree.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the LAFCO website is sanmatelolafco.org, and on it is the application submitted in April by Granada Sanitary District by resolution to to reorganize basically into a community services district. So each district in the county or in the state has enabling legislation under which it was formed. On the coast, we have 2 sanitary districts. Well, we started with 2 sanitary districts in a city. And so we have Granada Sanitary District that operates under enabling legislation that's in Health and Safety Code, and that sets forth the services that the district may provide. And those include sanitary sewer service and franchise garbage. They do not include park and recreation. We also have Montera Water and Sanitary District that was originally formed under Health and Safety Code as a sanitary district and got special legislation to add the powers of a water district. So it has 2 sets of powers, and the purpose of adding the powers of the water district was to acquire the Citizens Utility, or formerly Citizens Utility, Calian water system in order to operate the system. So looking at the 2 districts, you've got one that both start out as sanitary districts, and one had this special legislation to add water service, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So the enabling legislation for Granada Sanitary District does not include park and recreation. The purpose of the application, therefore, is to be able to become a park and rec provider and continue with the service of sanitary sewer and franchise garbage. The application process is LAFCO operates under the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act, which is codified in Government Code Sections 56,000 and 57,000. The first part of that is 56,000, and that sets forth the manner in which LAFCO must process an application, and also gives LAFCO discretionary authority over whether or not it will approve an application, approve it with conditions or modifications, or deny the application. Once LAFCO approves an application, it then goes into the 57,000 part of the government code, and that's not a discretionary process. That sets forth the manner in which LAFCO will process an approved application, and I'll talk about that the flow of the process in a moment. So LAFCO's received the application, and it's available on the LAFCO website and also on Granada Sanitary District's website, and issued a certificate of incomplete application directing the district to go back out into the community and hold a series of meetings with the school, all the affected agencies, so basically the school district, Resource Conservation District, Agricultural Advisory Committee, any agency that shares territory with the Granada Sanitary District's boundaries. Once LAFCO can certify the application is complete, meaning LAFCO is satisfied that the community has been informed and that the application has been vetted in the community, LAFCO will hold a notice to public hearing, and at that hearing, LAFCO will take there will be notice and opportunity for written comment. There'll be opportunity for comment at the hearing, and LAFCO will receive an executive officer's report that will weigh that application against the spheres of influence in the area, which I'll discuss in a moment, and also against the factors LAFCO must consider in terms of fiscal ability to provide the service, impact on other services provided in the community, and there's kind of a laundry list of those. If LAFCO approves the reorganization, LAFCO holds a protest hearing, but is basically under the Community Services District law is required to call an election if there's not more than 50% protest. So it's a LAFCO hearing, it's a protest hearing, and then an election is mandatory. The proposal itself is based in large part on 2 studies that have been conducted by the county, one in 2002 and one in 2007. And I think we would, be dragging a dead horse through the mud if we talked any more about the lack of park and recreation facilities on the coast side, so I won't go there. The spheres of influence for the coast side, LAFCO conducted a municipal service review and a sphere of influence update in 2007, and that is also on the LAFCO website. There were several meetings about that. And LAFCO amended the spheres of influence. So the sphere of influence is the plan for the boundaries of governance of an agency. amended the spheres of influence of Montera Water and Sanitary, Granada Sanitary, and Coastside County Water District from an expanded sphere for Coastside County Water District and dissolution of Montera Water and Sanitary and Granada Sanitary, because these would basically become either part of CCWD or part of the city of Half Moon Bay upon annexation. Amended the spheres for Montera Water and Sanitary, Granada Sanitary, and Coastside County Water District to that of consolidation. And one of LAFCO's purposes in adopting spheres of influence and in regulating the boundaries of cities and special districts is to provide for a more efficient form of government. And as you know, for a population of about 24,000, we have a city, we have 2 water agencies, and we have, in addition to the city being a sewer agency, we have Montera Water and Sanitary, we have Granada Sanitary, and then of course we have the layer of a fire district, and we have, I think, 3 county governed districts. So the purpose of the sphere of influence is to adopt a plan for the governance and service delivery that's more efficient than having that number of special districts. So the LAFCO, there is no recommendation yet because LAFCO, for the Granada Sanitary District's proposal, because LAFCO has not yet received comments from all affected agencies. That recommendation will be based on those comments, and it will be based on the spheres of influence and other factors that are required to be considered in the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act. So that's the Granada Sanitary District and Park and Rec. Currently, they cannot provide Park and Rec. If they want to do that, they must reorganize into a community services district. In terms of Montera Water and Sanitary District, they operate under 2 sets of enabling legislation, as I've stated. The Water Code, which gives them the powers of a water district, and Health and Safety Code, which governs the sanitary sewer and garbage franchise. Under Water Code, there is a provision that says a water district may provide park and recreation services related to district-owned lands. And some would argue that the legislative intent of that was park and recreation when you have a reservoir or you have large water-related lands that lend themselves to the benefit of park and recreation for the public. Having said that, even with that provision, regardless of the interpretation of that provision, because Government Code 56824.1 under the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act requires that in order for an agency to add a new service and actively provide that service if they've not been previously provided it, they must apply to LAFCO just as they would for any other organizational change. There must be an application, a resolution of application. There must be environmental review. There's an environmental document for the Granada Sanitary proposal. And LAFCO then receives that application, and there's a proposed budget, and there's a plan for providing that service. So currently, Montera Water and Sanitary District, while that provision resides in Water Code, they currently do not have the power to provide park and recreation. The distinction between the 2 application processes is formation of a community services district, just by code requires an election. The activation of powers like Park and Rec, an application like that, would require, if approved by LAFCO, that LAFCO hold a protest hearing, and unless 25%, and between 25% and 50% of the registered voters protest, there is no election. So there's not an election requirement absolutely for the for the activation of powers. So on the coast side, I think that's, hopefully that's gives some clarity to the special districts and what park powers are available. Questions?
Can I ask just a quick question? Sure. So I'm a little bit confused about your statement. If there's not a 25 to 50% protest, then there's not an election. Does that mean that they automatically get that, or
if for activation
automatically denied?
No, for activation of latent powers, it's treated like other applications that aren't for a community services district. So if LAFCO approves it, there is a protest hearing, and if 25%, greater than 25% and less than 50 submit written protest to LAFCO, and if you were here for the open space district annexation, you know what that means, then LAFCO must hold an election. If less than 25% submit protest, there is no election, and LAFCO, assuming all conditions are met, would record a certificate and authorize those powers.
Just to finish the whole program, if it's over 50%, it's automatically denied?
I believe so. And I'll check that fact for you.
Thank you.
Operationally, how are the percentages determined? Is that by, do people write on petitions, or do they have to physically come to a meeting?
No, it's a written protest that's set forth in the code that says that the registered voter shall submit, LAFCO provides a form, but a voter could, for example, write a letter saying, my name is Martha Poyatos and I reside at this address, and I'm a registered voter, and I hereby protest the approval of activation of powers. And so by the conclusion of the protest hearing, LAFCO takes in these and then has to, with the help of elections, measure the value of the protest.
And that's a percentage of?
Total registered voters.
Okay. Not just the people that are voting.
I have a question regarding the GSD process. As I understand it, if they are both approved by LAFCO, and then in the community election, the community votes to approve the action, then they will become a CSD. The question I have is, at the point that they become a CSD, is the board of that CSD carried over as the board of the current GSD, or is there a new election for that board?
No, LAFCO has the discretion to establish the existing board as the board of the newly formed district or require an election. And I would think that based on the timing of this application and when the election has just taken place, that LAFCO would likely establish the existing board as the board of the newly formed community services district.
So therefore, the community, in going to the polls for the election this November, should, considering that although there are a couple of ifs, they would be electing the board that would be the board of the new district, if those two conditions.
If the district is formed, if the community later supports conversion to a community services district, then yes.
The question I'm trying to understand is the MCC conducts a community forum, candidates sit there, the community asks questions, and if it were the case that there would be a new board elected to the CSD, it might be less appropriate or not appropriate to ask people standing in this election what they thought the powers of a CSD should be used for. Should you buy parkland, establish recreation programs? But on the other hand, if those people will automatically become CSD board members, if those two steps happen, then it seems appropriate to ask them those types of questions, just to understand what their thoughts are. I mean, it's open, you know, people can ask whatever they want, but there's more importance, it seems.
Right, I mean,
attached to
I think in terms of, you know, continuity on a project like this, where a current board has brought a project forward, and, you know, whether or not it is actually approved by LAFCO. If it is approved by LAFCO, it is, you know, the community is best served by maintaining the continuity of the board that developed the proposal, is one way to look at it. And I don't see, I think in terms of kind of the complexity of the basic issue before the community, and I should back up a little bit, because, you know, this whole discussion of parks and recreation and the abject absence of park facilities throughout unincorporated areas, including North Fair Oaks, which is where I live. The reason that that is the situation is that Prop 13, that was approved by the voters in 1978, drew a very indelible line on what property tax was available. And so when you look at, typically at counties where parks are providing park and recreation, or the county's providing park and rec, and you don't have new cities like the Central Valley or lots of new development pays for new infrastructure, and existing development otherwise would pay for any new facilities. And so that has been the challenge for the whole issue of park and rec in particular on the coast. So this proposal has come forward really surrounding that. And if you, attend Granada meetings, or if you read their application, what they're proposing is really, we have enterprise districts in this county that are receiving, they're a fee-for-service district, they're receiving property tax that's subsidizing that. And it's an opportunity to use property tax for these non-enterprise services like park and recreation. So that's, when you talk about the county and can the county change policy, it's not just changing policy, it's finding the money, because it's a property tax funded program. But does that answer your question, though, about the?
It does. I mean, I think the nature of the application by GSD has been relatively neutral in terms of exactly what sort of plans would go in place were they to be granted the power, taking the position that until they have the power, they can't even get into that discussion, involve a public process, et cetera. And therefore, there might be some very divergent views as to, a group of people might all be in favor of being a CSD, but have different views as to what direction it should go. So therefore, I'm just thinking people might want to know what the individual members have as their ideas in the upcoming election.
Well, and that the whole issue of what exactly will be provided is something that it's intended to be vetted before the LAFCO hearing. There's also the LAFCO has the authority to set conditions in approving a proposal, and so if in one way to get clarity on a more specific set of services that might be provided or facilities that might be funded by a new community services district is through the conditions that LAFCO could adopt. So what I want to emphasize is that this is a pre-application phase for the Granada Sanitary District proposal, and this is the opportunity for the district to make sure they're getting feedback from the community, and if necessary, amplify what's in the application to provide more clarity.
The follow-up, and it's of a very specific nature, is that while some of the things they might do are somewhat open, not really on board, the district does own land out in front, often referred to as the Burnham Strip. And there are different views as to what should be done with that land. Are you saying that the LAFCO, as part of their process, could investigate what the community's feelings are about that land and those certain?
No, I think that what I am trying to convey is that in approving the proposal, LAFCO can require more clarity on exactly what services and programs and facilities are going to be funded. LAFCO can't determine what that will be, but if the application is going to be deemed complete and the commission is going to accept an executive officer's report, they need to be satisfied that the community is satisfied that there are some outcomes that are what the community is expecting.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, could I ask if you could just briefly outline how many voting members are in LAFCO and how they are appointed?
Sure.
And
I'm sorry, I should have done that.
Territory that.
I should have done that. So LAFCO, under state law, has an appointing formula, basically, and it's mandated that in our county, for example, we have special district membership on LAFCO. So we have 2 county supervisors, and they are Don Horsley and Supervisor Adrian Tissier. And then we have an alternate who's Supervisor Slocum. And then there's 2 city members, currently Alan Alifano from Half Moon Bay, and, pardon me,
Do you remember which city?
Rich Garbarino from South San Francisco. Pardon me, we've just had some changes. We had resignations and some changes, and I apologize. And then the alternate is Mike O'Neill from City of Pacifica. The city members are appointed by the Council of Mayors, and that's set forth in the government code. So all the mayors get together periodically to do appointments for all sorts of boards and commissions, and one of them is LAFCO. So they appoint the Council of Mayors appoints the city members. Our special district members are, it's really been a long week, I apologize, and it's only Tuesday.
This is called Stump Martha.
Well, we're actually anticipating some changes, but currently it's David Altscher from Mid-Peninsula Water District, And we have Joe Sheridan from Broadmoor Police Protection District. And then our alternate is Joshua Cosgrove from North Coast County Water District. Those members are appointed by the presidents of the boards of the independent special districts. And so that's another mandated appointment process that LAFCO, that I as the executive officer have to oversee. And then there's a seventh member is the public member, and that is Linda Craig. And she's appointed by the 6 members of the commission. And each of the commissioners serves a 4-year term. And when there's a vacancy, there's a notification process of filling those.
In the case of, let's say, Alan Alfano, if he were to no longer be on the city council, does he drop from it, or does he hold that position?
No, you must be a city council member. That's what we've just had some changes from lots of changes in city council membership, and that's why I'm kind of stumped, because I do know my commissioners. And so LAFCO is an independent commission. I'm a county employee, but LAFCO contracts with the county for my position, and also contracts with the county for legal counsel, offices, et cetera. But it's an independent commission, it adopts its own budget, and it has, of course, this membership that's balanced from cities, special districts, county, public.
Let's say the GSD becomes the CSD. Did I understand you to say that the Parks and Recreation part of that would be funded out of existing property taxes?
Okay, so yes, each of many, almost all of the enterprise districts in the county receive a share of pre-Prop 13 property tax. And so the majority of their revenue is actually the enterprise fee-for-service, sewer service charges. And then they receive a share of property tax. And the proposal would take some of that property tax and fund park and recreation. And over time, you would see sewer fees be adjusted potentially to account for that, losing that subsidy for property tax.
So the sewer fees would be adjusted for the loss of property tax? Well, here's what I'm having a little trouble understanding. We've been made aware that the county has a fund that can support local parks, should we have them. Why would I vote for, if I could get enough people to protest, why would I vote for a program that I'm already paying taxes into the county, then want to come back and have a local program that it's almost like I'm paying twice for the same effort?
Okay, first of all, the county Parks Department is not funded there is no plan. I know there was a statement saying that there would be a review by the Board of Supervisors of policy in terms of pocket parks and whether or not the Parks Department would be able to fund those. There is not a funding source for pocket parks in San Mateo County. That would require a change. That will require a change in the budget. It'll require a change in policy. Now, I may be speaking out of turn. Maybe it's not a policy, but there certainly will have to be a change in budget. Let me finish. This application is going to be considered by the commission based on what is known right now. Now, I am not aware that there is any plan to create a property tax, segregated property tax share, or some other segregated fund for pocket parks in the county. There is a Midcoast Parks mitigation fee, and that comes from development fees. That's from the new, and that's what I was talking about earlier. New development pays for new infrastructure. You're mitigating the impact of increased population by getting some revenue that can be spent locally on parks. Now, I'm not going to advocate for the Granada Sanitary District proposal. What I really would encourage the council to do and the residents to do that are affected by this is to look at the application. There's a budget, there's a proposed budget, there's a plan for service. If you have questions, that's what you want to base your questions on, not what I'm telling you today about LAFCO process.
Lisa, you had your hand up?
It was about the park mitigation fees, and it's been answered.
Just one operational question. If the district wanted to do something that, let's say, just for the sake of argument, cost $100,000, do they have to fund that within the year of making the expense, or can they develop a plan that pays it, and they have more money in their bank account, which could cover it, but it didn't come in through any particular allocation of money for parks? So could they make a decision that required paying, paying the parks cost over time, and
Well,
using?
special districts have the authority to adopt a budget. I think a very similar example is when Montera Sanitary District got its water authority and became Montera Water and Sanitary District. Initially, all of the property tax was going towards sewer service charges or sewer service operation. And at some point in time, the district board, in adopting the budget, allocated some of that property tax for the water side of the operation. So a district can adopt a budget, and there's nothing that would preclude the district from, in year one, using property tax for park and recreation. Was that your question?
Partly. The question was, let's suppose they wanted to make some expenditure in year one that was more than the money they proposed to bring in year one. Could they fund it with amounts that they might have in a bank account and show a plan to pay that amount over 2 years or 3 years?
Well, the district's got a budget that includes a fund balance, and part of that is built with property tax revenue and sewer service fees. And they, like Montera Water and Sanitary, could use their fund balance for an authorized power. So I don't know that there's any requirement that anything be, quote-unquote, paid back. You would be starting a new district, and typically what you do with a reorganization is you pick the beginning of a fiscal year. So you end up with this you have your carryover of your fund balance, and you have your anticipated property tax revenue and other fees, and you adopt a budget. And typically, fund balance is used for one-time revenues and not operating. So they would most likely look at that and say, well, we propose these capital improvements, and we're going to use a portion of our reserves or fund balance for that.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to take you away from parks and go back.
Thank you.
And go back to something you said, but you're probably going to hate me for it more. But it was your explanation of sphere of influences, consolidation, and incorporation.
Mhm.
And those are three magic words out here. And so I was going along, kind of half listening as you went through it all, and then ding, the alarm went off. So what I think
That's
I heard,
why I said that, because I knew you were half listening.
You want to wake me up. College professors tried that for years. Didn't work. Anyway, so this is what I think I heard, and maybe you can sort of see where I'm mixed up with. So it sounded like you were saying that from a LAFCO perspective, you believe in the idea of economies of scale, so it makes more sense to consolidate all these overlapping services under one bigger government, and then things will run more efficiently and there'll be less headaches.
I don't remember saying
No.
believe, and I don't remember saying headaches.
Okay. Well, but
Okay.
I'm
Well,
summarizing that.
And I wanted to focus on Park and Rec because that really was the question at hand tonight. This Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act has general state policies that favor consolidation and multi-purpose agencies over a proliferation of single-purpose agencies. And in looking at the coast side, and looking in particular at the fact that you've got 3 elected bodies operating sewer systems that are part of, actually completely operated by Sewer Authority Midcoast side, that is actually a model of where could you go to really simplify and create efficiencies without having 3 decision makers. And again, Sewer Authority, I maybe misspoke when I used the word model, because the governing formula for it isn't anything that we would create today. However, LAFCO's purpose is to encourage efficiencies elimination of overlapping boundaries, which we do have here on the coast, and elimination of duplicated services of like agencies serving small populations.
So, okay, and that's understandable why you do that. But if you're only in a recommending position, like that's not something you could push forth as a LAFCO/county agenda? I mean, 'cause
Not county, okay, LAFCO's not the county.
Okay. I know
Independent
you work for the
commission.
county, so again, I'm
Okay.
a little confused, so.
The spheres of influence are to a certain extent regulatory. And an example is, just like the urban-rural boundary is, the LAFCO spheres of influence for the districts on the coast side are coterminous with the urban-rural boundary.
Mhm.
So let's say that you had a project that was out in the rural area and there was some driving force to apply to annex to the utility districts to get water and sewer. LAFCO could not approve that annexation because it's not consistent with the spheres.
I see.
Okay,
you just
so
did
it's
that.
regulatory in that regard. LAFCO does not have unilateral authority to consolidate districts. Consolidation, which is also set forth in the code, has different paths it can take, and there is an expedited path if two districts adopt resolutions, both adopted resolutions of application to LAFCO to consolidate. That's an expedited process. But LAFCO doesn't have unilateral authority to just consolidate districts. That comes from the districts, that comes from the community.
So then I assume if something like that were to start to happen, then you'd go back to that same process where if you had 25 to 50% of the people objecting to it, then it would have to go out to some kind of a vote and all that.
Depending on how the application comes to LAFCO, yes. But there is a protest process.
Okay.
It's not a final decision by the commission.
Okay, and then just a quick jump back to parks. What kind of weight would LAFCO give to organized bodies supporting or not supporting like the CSD, GSD, the GSD to CSD thing, if the agency actually lapped over into other areas outside of the ratepayers? Like we do the whole coast here, but there's only the GSD half of the coast that is really affected by that. So how much weight would you give an MCC letter that, you know, is basically being put forth by a body of a much bigger sphere of influence?
Well, how much weight the commission will give?
Okay, the commission, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Not you
Well,
personally.
I mean, LAFCO
I'll let you.
must consider the input from any of the affected agencies, from any of the voters, residents, et cetera. LAFCO, there are also provisions that allow, for example, a city can veto a detachment of territory from a city. A district can veto annexation to the district. And the purpose of that is that districts shouldn't be forced to take on territory that's not fiscally viable to serve. And cities should not be subject to detachments that would take away property tax or other types of revenue. So there's that. That's not a discretionary consideration for LAFCO, that's mandatory. But LAFCO has the discretion to place weight. And in this situation, I'm not going to tell you how many pounds.
I got you. That's fine. Thank you again.
Dan, go ahead.
And what is the geographical area that LAFCO has influence in?
So LAFCO has authority over all of the cities and special districts countywide in San Mateo County.
Okay.
And statewide as well, there's different counties.
There's a
Is it countywide?
LAFCO in each county of the state. So
Okay.
the whole idea was LAFCOs were created post-World War II when there was all this rapid growth and sprawl taking place. And it was determined that instead of having annexations and incorporation decisions be made in Sacramento, they would be made locally based on local conditions. And so this set of laws is written broad enough so that local LAFCOs can implement them based on local conditions.
Okay. So the state legislators wrote the laws
Yes.
that you carry out. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I have one last question. If I'm a voter and I go to the polls and I'm trying to make a decision about whether this is a good thing or it's not a good thing for the community, what are the things that you would point out as, we've heard all the positives. What would you say are the things we should look at that would balance out what's so positive?
Well, I mean, I think that's what you, first of all, I'm really hoping everybody looks at the Granada Sanitary District proposal, because that is a decision for the community to look at. If it is a foregone conclusion that without some new revenue source, there will be no park and recreation, you need to weigh that against is, you know, the kind of the decision of the best and highest use of property tax. If the purpose of Prop 13, or one of the consequences of Prop 13 was to say, and they did, the legislature drew a bold line between enterprise activities and non-enterprise, and directed local government and special districts in particular to wean themselves from property tax if they're an enterprise district that can charge a fee to recover the cost of providing service. So the fact that enterprise districts like Montero Water and Granada Sanitary and West Bay Sanitary are receiving property tax was an unintended consequence of Prop 13. They're getting a share that represents a proportional share that they were assessing before Prop 13 happened, okay? Now, you look at the fire districts, that's an example of a non-enterprise district that's funded primarily with property tax, and here on the coast with some parcel tax. So the decision of what you're looking at when it gets, by the time it gets to a ballot measure is, first of all, you've had a chance to ask the questions of why should this be important to me and what concerns should I have if this does get approved. That's one of the purposes of this getting vetted in the community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Can I do a follow-up on your question?
Sure.
So, if that's the case, if GSD was granted CSD rights, you had mentioned before that the county collects a small fee on every new piece of construction and thing gets put into things like park and rec. Would they still be eligible in that area to still collect county fees for infrastructure because of the new buildings going up in that same?
There's no proposal to eliminate the parks mitigation fee, and I think what opportunity would exist is either joint powers agreements or just partnering between an existing agency that can provide park and rec and the county that is collecting the fee and not yet using it.
I'd like to go ahead and turn this over to the open public comment. Is that works for everybody? Is there anybody that would like to comment or ask questions? Oh, I'm sorry, you gave me two at once, and I, please, Leonard, come speak to us. But this is part of your 3 minutes, as what's mentioned from the first one.
I made a bunch of notes while various people were asking questions. In terms of the board, the initial board of the CSD, and I have every reason to believe that the voters are going to approve this. It's not like we're hiding out. My candidate statement explicitly mentions trying to get Parks Authority, and one of the challengers mentions trying to do something different. So it'll be really obvious to the voters, I think, especially at the candidate forum. Regarding the park mitigation fees, one of the things that's been ignored, it's been roundly ignored, including by the county parks department. It's really an in lieu fee. It's called a mitigation fee. It's an in lieu fee. The developers have to pay it in lieu of actually providing the parkland directly. And the state law on that requires local matching money that's not from the in lieu fees. So, and it's a proportion based on percent build out. So if we're at 50% build out, that's a tricky number to explain with. Let's say we were at 55% build out. That means that for any given capital parks project, they could use 45% in lieu fee, and there would have to be 55% other money that's not from the in lieu fee. from existing residents. And the county hasn't been following that, and sooner or later, there's going to be trouble from that. In terms of the property tax shift, one of the things that I've been saying, but you don't hear it repeated by other people, the state legislature has been actively seeking to follow the legislative analyst's advice and steal the property tax small enterprise districts. So sooner or later they're going to succeed. They try roughly every 2 years. And sooner or later they will succeed, at which time we will have to raise the sewer service charge to account for the sudden loss of the property tax. So we can either shift it to Parks and Rec, a non-enterprise function where we hold on to it, or we can let them steal it. And either way, we have to raise the sewer service charge. So let's at least get something for that, which is local parks. I'm going to have to come back to one of these things. I want to ask Martha what the effective date is. If the voters approve it on in June, whatever that date is, what's the actual effective date of the district being a CSD?
The effective date is a condition that LAFCO has authority over setting, and so if you're trying to have an effective date dovetail with an election, sometimes that's hard because you require a quick turnaround to make a lot of things happen. There is the choice of picking the beginning of the fiscal year or the beginning of the fiscal quarter is the most logical, so that you have a clean set of books starting and finishing. So this process isn't yet cast in stone in terms of what dates we're working with, but it would be either a fiscal quarter or a fiscal year.
Okay. I also want to point out, and I'm going to keep pointing this out at every opportunity, that most smaller Parks and Rec districts in the state are actually CSDs, and it's virtually always sanitary at parks. GSD's general manager manages 3 other districts at the south end of the state, and I believe that all 3 of those are CSDs doing sanitary plus either landscape and lighting or sanitary plus parks. And the budgets do need to be segregated. There has to be a distinct budget for each of the 2. In a CSD, CSD isn't necessarily limited to 2 functions. The Granada CSD will be, but each function has to have its own budget that's completely separate. The other reason for using local property tax, and let's get real, the county's not going to allocate money for local parks. They never have, they never will. They're going to talk about it, but they're never actually going to do it. So, if we spend local tax money on it, we get local control, and we don't get 60 tons of asphalt for a 100-foot path in Quarry Park. As far as consolidation, people don't want it. There's a handful of people that do, but most don't. And let me remind everybody that GSD has the lowest rates on the coast side, easily the lowest rates. And even if we were to shift all the property tax, we'd still have the lowest rates on the coast side. The last thing is, I'm going to kick this one back to Martha. In the letter from the County Parks and Rec Commission supporting this, this was written by, I believe, by the interim executive director. He said, well, this only addresses half of the Midcoast. What about the other half, and why isn't this application considering the whole Midcoast? And I think there's a whole bunch of obvious answers to that. For one thing, it's outside our boundary. It's in another district's boundary. I'm sure they'd object to it, and then we don't collect property tax there, so the funding mechanism doesn't exist. And let's see what else Martha wants to add to that. But there's a whole bunch of reasons why that's not being considered.
Yes, did you want to add something, Martha?
No, I have no comment to that.
Whoa, just in time, Leonard. Is there anyone else who would like to speak or ask questions? All right, with that, I'm going to close public comment. And the council, as I said, is not taking any action since this is informational.
I just want to thank you for the time.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on to regular agenda item B, Pillar Point Harbor Strategy for Dredging, Erosion Control, and Dredged Material Reuse. The desired outcome on this is to approve a draft letter to the County Harbor Commission. Lisa, you want to?
Okay, so we have the letter here, and it's also posted on our website. There's been grassroots movement toward getting beneficial use or beach nourishment with the harbor siltation material for some years, and the Harbor District's been working with the Army Corps on a study which is taking a very long time, and the shoreline along Princeton will someday be addressed when the Princeton plan is done and whenever, sometime after that. But in the meantime, I guess last spring, the issue really started festering because the Harbor District needed to dredge the boat ramp, and they wanted to put the dredge material on Perch Beach in the inner harbor once again. And they had been saying for years that this was the only dredge disposal site they had, so their hands were tied. And the Harbor District also actually owns the West Trail that goes out along to the West Breakwater out to Mavericks Beach, and that is badly eroded, and they could use the dredge material there, but they said they couldn't. So anyways, it turns out with this permitting process for the launch ramp dredging, all these years that I guess it was 2 events where they dredged the boat ramp and put the stuff on Perch Beach, they didn't have a coastal development permit to do that. And it was not an ongoing dredge disposal site. That was absolutely not true. And in fact, the Coastal Commission this past year considered making them mitigate for all that. But anyhow, one last time, they're going to put the dredge on Perch Beach, and the Midcoast Council wrote a letter after that compromise occurred and asked them to bring forward their plan to address the erosion at the West Trail, and also to develop other beach nourishment use for their sand. And that was our letter in June. And since then, the general manager has produced the Harbor District general manager produced a strategic plan for their dredging and dredge material reuse, and that was published in June or early August, July or early August. And so we've seen that, and the Coastside Beach Coalition commented on it. There's a lot of overlap, the personnel between us and Coastside Beach Coalition. But anyhow, and we all attended, most of us attended their workshop they had on this strategic plan. And now they have sent the plan to the Coastal Commission and asked to start talking about what they're going to do with the West Trail. And so that's good that they're starting the permitting for the West Trail. The problem, okay, so the letter basically, what we're asking, this is to the Harbor Commission, and 2 issues with the strategic plan. They're calling this beneficial use. And the Harbor District's idea of beneficial use for dredge material includes filling tidelands and developing. And I don't think that's what local people had in mind. Or mitigating for doing that, such as putting dredge material next to Perch Beach to mitigate for paving Perch Beach and the sensitive habitat where they want to, anyway. So we're, so that was the first point in the letter, that this idea that's in their strategic plan still to put dredge material there next to Perch Beach or on Perch Beach or whatever, and that was the first point in the letter that we would really like them to focus on. Beach nourishment instead, and also in their plan they talked about priority. What is it?
That's yours.
Priority for different projects, and the cost effectiveness was very important. And it was clear where they were going with that, because the most cost effective would be the nearest place to put the sand, which would be on Perch Beach if they wanted to dredge the inner harbor. And so that's our second point, is that they should consider that more than half their budget comes from property taxes, comes from the public fund. And so in evaluating priorities there, that public access should be and beach nourishment should get bumped up, should be their top priority as to where they put their dredge material when they're dredging the harbor. And then the last 2 points in the letter were relating the West Shoreline Trail now, which they finally are bringing forward. The report that they did in early in 2012 didn't even have a beach nourishment alternative. And at the, and this is what they're bringing forward now to talk about with the Coastal Commission staff. And at the meeting that the Harbor District General Manager held in mid-August, discussed the strategic plan, he said that, well, they couldn't really nourish the beach there because there was no beach, and that's absolutely not true. It's covered with rubble that has been, you know, that's what happens when you don't maintain your whatever road you built, you know, and all the rocks are pulled out onto the beach. And so that was the point we made there, that, you know, they really need to, and important to note that this is copied to the Coastal Commission staff because we're not going to be in on this conversation.
Oh, good.
And so I wanted, and then the last point here about Romeo Pier, this is something that I had brought up at Coastal Commission, at the Harbor Commission meetings, that it was closed. I know it's very picturesque to look at, especially in the fog, but Romeo Pier was closed in the late 90s when a truck partially fell through the deck. And actually, shortly after the Harbor District bought it, they did an underwater survey of the condition of the pier, and many of the pilings rotted off, don't even reach the ground. And that was over 15 years ago. It's been sitting there closed, and its sole function is to serve as mitigation if and when the Harbor District gets around to building a new pier somewhere else. And we had this boat wreck out at Ross's Cove last winter with the marine debris disaster, and this pier is just waiting to fall down. And so we've asked them to, you know, and okay, so at this meeting in August that we were at, the general manager stated, quote, "Romeo Pier is falling down," unquote. So basically here we're asking them, look, bring a work plan forward to address this hazard. And once again, I think it's helpful to have it be copied to the Coastal Commission. So does anybody have any questions?
No? Okay, then I will open public comment. Is there anyone that would like to comment on the topic? What a shock. Leonard wants to?
He's already has 3 minutes.
Neil, did you also?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quick question.
Yeah, you don't expect the Harbor District to actually do the right thing for the local community.
Now, Leonard.
Do you? No, you couldn't pay me to say anything good about the Harbor Commission. And now I forgot what the legitimate comments that I have, but.
Age.
Can we pay you not to make
You know, Lisa's right, they bought Romeo Pier not to use it as a pier, but to basically trade it for if and when they decide to build another pier somewhere else, because you essentially cannot get a permit to build a new pier in California anymore. So you can replace existing piers, even if you replace them in a different location. So that's what they're up to with that, but yeah, it's very unsafe. But the Harbor District does not spend money in the right places. You know, they have rather luxurious offices over near Oyster Point that they're overpaying for, and they have twice as much square footage as they need. And you know, I don't know what we do about the Harbor Commission. You can send letters all you want. I haven't looked at this letter, but you know, I trust Lisa to raise the right points. And you know, I was just about to pull it up on the web when you called for public comment. But you know, sight unseen, I'm inclined to support it. We really need every bit of arm twisting at every level. You know, every regulatory agency that has control over the Harbor District, we need to get them to force the Harbor District to do the right thing. And putting it on Perch Beach is not the right thing. And you know, them saying it's the cheapest solution, that's a red herring. The real reason is because the general manager there wants to build a building on Perched Beach, and he just has to keep chipping away at the environmental value until he can say, well, there's no environmental value, we can build a building here. And his goal has been for years to build a building there. So the excuse that it's cheaper to put it there doesn't hold any water. And, you know, it's not like this district doesn't waste money at every opportunity. And I can give you a long, long list of how they do that.
Oh, you don't have to.
Yeah. So I think that you need to send the strongest letters possible to every agency that could possibly influence this and try and force them to do the right thing. And that also means light a fire under them and get something done to stop the erosion at Surfers Beach, which is, you know, completely the result of the breakwater that the harbor benefits from, and they need to fix the breakwater. And the Army Corps of Engineers gives new meaning to my phrase, moves at the speed of government, because you can't even see the Army Corps moving with time-lapse photography.
Thank you, Leonard. Neil?
Thank you, Lisa, for following up on this. I wanted to point out, too, that Romeo Pier is picturesque, and God, is it worth saving just for that? And, I mean, it may be. But on the other hand, it's pressure-treated wood, which is toxic. And so when it does start falling into the water, and when it does need to be hauled away, it can't be hauled to our local landfill. It'll have to be hauled to Livermore. So the toxic waste disposal site will be very expensive. And you don't want toxic wood floating around in the harbor either, so it'd be better to take care of it before it does fall down. It either needs to be fixed or it needs to be taken out. Either one is going to be incredibly expensive. I don't know what they were thinking when they accepted that.
They paid $185,000 for that pier, and they no longer have land access to it.
Yeah, it's worthless as a pier, you're right, because there's no land access. Yeah, visually it's beautiful. It's just a matter of how much it's going to cost to either fix or tear down. And then on the dredging issue, who is the Coastal Commission staff that they're dealing with? Do you know?
Madeline Cavalieri.
Okay. And so we should invite her to the Midcoast Council, or you should invite her to the Midcoast Council to talk to her, and maybe we should invite her for a site visit to show her, what our resources are and what should be done and what's happening to Surfers Beach because it's not being replenished, and what's happening to the outer breakwater area of Princeton shoreline because it's not being replenished.
I send her pictures. I don't know who attended the meeting that was in the supervisor's report, the Surface Beach area where they were gonna armor it and put the coastal trail, and that's Caltrans Coastal Commission staff and the county. So I don't know who came to that meeting representing the Coastal Commission, maybe with Madeline, I don't know.
Don't know.
Nick Dreyer's out of the piece.
Yeah, one problem with the Coastal Commission staff that I've had is that every time you develop a relationship with somebody and show them what the problems are, they leave. So we're on our fourth incarnation of talking about Surfers Beach with 4 different Coastal Commission staff members that are over the years. So yeah, there's no continuity, but if Madeline is the person in charge now, then it'd be great to write her some letters and to invite her for a site visit.
Maybe we should also invite Carol Groom, since she sits on the Coastal Commission.
Carol actually might be very interested in this, and there's a coastal commissioner from the Ventura area who's very involved in beach nourishment, and kind of is famous for getting a project approved down there, and he would be very interested. So yeah, there's interest, but I have a feeling that if the staff is meeting with the Harbor District staff, they're getting a different story. And somehow we have to make sure that the community story is told. So thank you, and I'll follow up in any way if you want to send me an email.
Thanks, good idea. Let's copy Carol Groom on this.
I can find out tomorrow morning who the Coastal Commissioner was that attended the Caltrans meeting at Surfers Beach. So I'll let you guys know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Grant?
Lisa?
Good evening, Fran Pollard from El Granada, and I just have a quick question. Lisa, in your letter, does it say specifically for, you mentioned beach, I didn't get beach replenishment. Were you talking about Surfers Beach, and did you specify that?
We're talking about their strategy. It's a whole plan that Peter Grinnell wrote up. Here's where we want to dredge, here are the places we're going to put it, and how are we going to decide where we're going to put it.
But in your letter, are you specifying we want it on Surfers Beach?
No. No,
I
that's
think
not
it
what
should
this
be.
is about. This is about their strategy in general. At the moment, that's a no-go. We can't tell. They want to dredge the inner harbor, and they need to fix the West Shoreline Trail.
Yeah,
But
and
what they're
Surfers
proposing,
Beach.
so, not at the moment. Their first near-term item is, it's posted on our website, their strategic plan is
No,
there.
I didn't see it.
And it's right there with our agenda items. And their near-term plan is dredging the inner harbor and fixing the erosion at the West Shoreline Trail. Problem being, their concept for the West Trail is armoring. And it's not clear where they'll put that inner harbor dredging.
And the other thing, ask them not to pave it. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Is there anyone else that would like to comment?
I do, I want just one question, a request I might say. Just listening to everything just today, and actually Leonard's list, I'd love to see Leonard's list. Is it possible for MCC to continue this on an ongoing basis, to follow up on this? Because there's just so many lists of things that are either not being done correctly, or should be done, or aren't being done, and it seems to me
Yes.
some other body to do that.
Yes.
She will
I'm
not
all-
let go.
I'm all over it.
I'd
You
like
have
to
a
see it on
page-
every agenda, it should be every
We have
meeting.
we have a special page on our website
Mhm.
about harbor shoreline issues.
Okay.
And it's bursting at the seams.
So you'll have one
And
continuing, good.
there have been blog posts on our news feed going along the past year, and whenever, yeah.
No, because I think it's really important, because there's a lot of people here who don't really have an understanding of who
Yes.
runs that harbor, and also how much land and they actually do have, that people don't realize that the harbor district makes decisions on. So I think that's important.
No, they're always under the radar. People have no clue, and they don't make it easy to have a clue, so.
You can watch the video. Oops, oh no, you can't.
But the MCC is a perfect place to make it more visible. Thank you.
It's a
Thank you.
problem. It's a really nasty
So-
problem.
We need a motion.
I have another.
Oh, you have a question?
Yes, I do.
You had a chance for a question. Oh,
I
excuse
kept
me.
trying.
One moment. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? If not, I'm going to close public comment. Okay, go
Now you're
ahead.
doing things
Yes.
As this goes forward, this particular item, Lisa, will we have a near-term discussion at the Harbor Commission itself, or does this all relate to discussions with Coastal Commission, et cetera?
I would like to note that in spite of our letter to them on this issue in June, the letter, and they're coming up with a strategic plan, when they sent the strategic plan out to the Coastal Commission, they copied Carol Brun, Don Horsley, the Board of Harbor Commissioners, Nick Dreyer, Scott Grindy, and not the MCC. I get the letter because these things come my way, but, so that, we are studiously ignored, but we will persevere.
My question was, did they discuss the strategic plan at a Harbor Commission meeting?
They had it on the agenda in August, and some of us went and spoke. The comment period was relatively short because Peter Grinnell said he felt that he was ready. And he said they were going to have the special meeting, which most of us attended August 17th. It was on a Harbor Commission meeting August 7th. Then they had the special meeting at the Yacht Club, at Comfort Inn, August 17th, and to talk about it. I forget, what was your question?
I said, did they discuss it? Had they
Yeah.
already discussed it at the Harbor Commission meeting? You said yes. In terms of what you present here, will this in any way be discussed at a future Harbor Commission meeting, or
Oh, well, I guess that's where I get to the point where, yeah, they seem to just ignore our stuff, right?
So not
To
likely
the
be
point that they
discussed.
didn't even copy us on their, pardon?
Your answer is no, they won't discuss this further at a Harbor
I
Commission
seriously
meeting.
doubt it.
The point I wanted to make is, along with sending this forward to Supervisor Horsley, we had sent him a letter with concerns about no longer videoing the meeting.
Right.
We took that path as a consent agenda item because he said he wanted to work the issue. So I would just like to ask our chair along with it, just to ask Supervisor Horsley to report back how his efforts are coming to look into that issue.
I got confused with which issue you meant he was looking into.
Harbor District.
Videotaping.
Oh, the
Harbor District
videotaping.
meetings.
Well, you know, what I'm thinking about is you're speaking is, and I don't know if he'd be amenable to it, because it's kind of a touchy line where it's another special district and we're pointing the finger. But at any rate, I would like to see the discussion with him here as to, so how do we proceed? I mean, we have a list of things, but I'll ask Lisa because it's her
Or you mean
passion.
over and above the video,
Yeah,
just the whole
exactly.
issue?
Yeah, because there's several, and he did have comments about previous ones as well. So let me ask Lisa, do you have a strategy?
Well, my strategy is just to keep plugging away at this, and the supervisor is aware of these steps, and even, when was it, over a year ago, when they were having the regional sediment management plan done for the San Francisco coastline, and then in the future, there's gonna be Santa Cruz, and we were just skipped here, and the supervisor heard that and wrote a letter to whoever decides those things, and now the Half Moon Bay, Pillow Point Harbor will be included in the Santa Cruz Regional Sediment Management Plan, and that's to get underway any moment now, and that may help us move to a quicker resolution as far as surface beach goes. But he was supportive there. He wrote, and that may have been tipped the balance to have that happen. And he also said he would be interested to weigh in on the videoing. And like I say, we continue to copy him. I think it's a good idea to copy Carol Broom too.
I agree with what Laura said in terms of just asking him to come to summarize the whole situation.
Well, perhaps we'll get a copy of a letter he sent or something, which is
No,
what
I meant to
happened
actually
with-
come to speak to us as an item on our agenda, which I think was Laura's idea.
I don't know if politically that would happen, to be
Well,
honest.
No, and I believe we could ask him about it. I mean, we're not, this
I'll
isn't
see what I
competition
can
with
do.
him, but
How's
yeah,
that?
I think
So do we have a motion on the table?
Question?
Oh, we do need a motion on the table, yes.
Question
Go
for
ahead.
Lisa. So, that the Harbor Commission seems to be ignoring us to some extent. Do you think that it would be a good idea that not only that we mail this to them, but that we actually read it at the public comments? Would that be appropriate that way? It would be, they could not, it would be on file. In fact, if it's the next meeting, it may be able to be videotaped?
I need to clarify, they're not ignoring us. We asked them to bring forward the West Trail erosion issue, and they are now doing it. We asked them to to find other dredge disposal sites and to prioritize beach nourishment. They're doing it. It's just that they're pretending it wasn't us. I mean, so whatever works,
Yeah, exactly.
you know. I mean, so they didn't copy us on their letter, whatever. We found the letter, and, you know, they're moving, the ship of state is really gradually shifting.
Yeah.
and-
I've heard that from other people as well. And so for that reason, do you see anything wrong with, reading this at the public comment so that it's on record that they've received it? Because it takes a while to get a response from them. Is that correct?
I think it's a long letter, and they're already having a problem with long meetings, and always when we send a letter, we get an acknowledgement from the president that he's received the letter.
Okay.
And there was a comment at a meeting, Commissioner Holsinger made a comment about our letter in June, but it was kind of sarcastic, but I mean, it was clear that he got the letter. And so I don't see anything to be gained by just making their meeting longer when they've already got the letter, you know what I mean?
It actually might have a negative at this
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
Because they're using the whole idea of grandstanding as
Yeah.
a reason for getting rid of video.
If you
So-
had your own
Grants,
personal,
not, it's just information flow.
if you were at the meeting and it was on their agenda or whatever it is, and you want to make your own personal comment, your own personal take on it, short and quick, that, you know,
That's
that'd be better than
important, too.
reading a
Yeah.
long letter.
Yeah, for sure.
So do we have a motion?
Move we accept this letter. I move we send this letter as stated here.
Did you want to
Second.
approve a draft letter to the County Harbor Commission?
Sounds like an excellent way to state the motion.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's what I couldn't remember at the start of the meeting.
What?
All those in favor.
Oh.
I was like, huh, what? Okay, motion is approved. We're now going to move on to regular.
So,
What?
what were you just asking about, a letter to the Harbor Commission?
Oh, the motion is.
No, no, not this
what?
one. I thought you were asking to
No,
someone.
she just restated the motion.
Oh, okay,
I said-
okay.
Oh, I just
I'm sorry.
restated it.
I thought it was something separate, and I just,
Okay, is everybody clear what we voted on? Okay. All right, then we're gonna move on to regular agenda C, Cabrillo Unified School District Strategic Plan Development, focus group members. What we need to do is we've been asked to select 2 MCC members to participate in the CUSD focus group on Friday, September 27th, from 1 to 3 at the district office boardroom. To make this brief, I would like to suggest that Len and I are selected, and my reasoning for that is I have a child in the school, and I know Len does some type of consultant work with Fairlawn View and other various schools. Am I correct?
Run an after-school program with the county granted all schools.
Well, that sounds about right. So anyhow, I'm going to just put that out there, and if council has any questions or concerns,
If that's a nomination, I'll second that.
okay.
I guess I have questions before we go with nominations.
Yes.
So what does this entail?
It's simply no different, I think, than like the Princeton scoping where you go and sit
Oh, I
down
would
and they.
clarify that. This is
Oh,
one
okay.
meeting,
This is
one day,
for
Yeah.
2 hours.
For 2 hours, yeah.
2.5 hours, just one meeting.
And the topics being,
Have no clue.
Strategic plan for the district.
Your strategic plan.
so this is the discussion of the master plan that's sitting up there now for the Measure S $81 million bond?
Broader than that, strategic plan for the district.
And is there like an outline there? I mean, what kind of input?
Oh,
are
no,
they
I just
asking
got, I got an
for?
email, and that basically sums it all up. I can forward the email to you. In fact, I think
My understanding is it's early in the process, and they're trying to shape something moving toward a strategic plan. That's why it's an early focus group.
Are you interested in doing it?
No, I'm just,
Too bad.
actually not. My kids are out, and, you know, my whole point with the Cabrillo Unified School Board is to become an adversary, to make them a real school board. So I don't want to have anything to do with any of the strategic plans.
Okay, well, I will now see if the public has any comments or concerns. Does anyone want to comment? I do not see a raised hand. So we're going to close public comment, and could I have a motion on the table? Just repeat what you already.
I nominate Lauren Lynn to attend the school district strategic plan focus group on September 27 on behalf of the MCC.
All those in favor? Oh, wait, do I have a second? Jeez.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're gonna have
All
to
right.
get you like a little checklist there.
I have a million
Right up these
here.
procedures.
The good news is,
They're-
I think you've only got like 5 more meetings.
I know. Okay, next we're going to, this is a hard word to say, county supervisorial district lines. We're looking to approve a draft comments to the San Mateo County District Lines Advisory Committee. And who would like to do a little brief presentation? Okay.
First of all, I'd like to thank Fran Pollard for keeping at this and, you know, trying to make sure that we kept a footing in on this. I met with Fran and some other people and Dan, as you know, since I think late spring, early summer. I've sort of mentioned back and forth that they had these how to draw your district line map thing and looking to get some traction on that. In investigating it further and actually having a line drawing party at Fran's house, which turned out to be a real headache in the website, it became apparent that probably the best thing to do is to more or less define what the community is that we're trying to protect, which is a coastside community. But in order to do that, we have to have roughly 150,000 people in the district, because then they need to have balance. We have about 70 some over here, so we have to pull another 70, an equal amount from across the hill north of us. So currently, we have everything along the coast side, Pacifica, up Daly City, and then over a little bit east of 280, kind of going down there, and then Portola Valley, and a little finger going out along San Carlos. There are different groups putting things in, but looking at trying to change it, the best solution that we thought of from talking to different people was to basically ask to keep that District 3 remain fairly intact, knowing full well that there is going to be some modification as they try to balance other people's maps and also populations. So the basic piece of this is that we mentioned that the Midcoast community of interest is the coastal zone. And then the three things we bring out is that we say the existing integrity of the coastside District 3 must remain intact, so as not to dilute the unique interests of the community. So things like agriculture, open space, and things like that. We want to make sure that the area where Supervisor Horsley remains is still in our district, so he stays our supervisor, because going forward, the supervisor has to live in the district in order to be voted in. And now that we've got him pretty well trained and he's up on everything, it would be sad it'd be sad to lose him. I hope he doesn't watch the video. And then the other part is, in balancing the district population, we said, please consider including or keeping in District 3 bayside areas most similar to our community of interest as described above, which is the coastal zones and open space and things like that. Obviously, we're going to have some city mix in there. Some other feedback in talking with the Supervisor Horsley is that there's only 1 or 2 maps out there. One is that they might chop off a little of the northern part of Pacifica, and then they'll make up that population count with some area close to Menlo Park, I think he told me. But in general, he felt that he also would like to see his district remain relatively the same as it is now, other than minor population shifts as they play with it. So that's all we're restating, is that we want it to pretty much stay the same.
Do any of the council members have questions?
I wanted to, from community input, add the phrase in the third paragraph where it says necessary adjustments occurring only on the bay side east of Highway 280. I would like to add east of Highway 280, and then also the first bullet where it says existing integrity of the coastside District 3 add west of Highway 280 must remain intact. I think that would be a good addition.
I understand the first one. So with the third one, in balancing the district population, please consider including or keeping in District 3 bayside areas. You want to say bayside areas east of 280? Is that?
Necessary adjustments occurring only on the bay side east of Highway 280.
Right, you're saying that those were the adjustments should be. And
Yes,
in point-
and then to clarify in the bullet item where, to clarify coastside District 3 with west of Highway 280. I think because they might assume Skyline is the division for the coastside. And
okay.
it needs to be clear that it's more
I
like
think
roughly 280. I
this
just thought
list
that
of
seemed.
list of 280 as a general term is quite misleading, because 280 runs through all of the districts, and all of them have land west of 280.
Talking about the southern end?
No, if you look at districts,
No, I'm saying, see what you're,
Here?
we should focus on the southern
Yeah.
It
end.
looked like 280 to me.
no, it's, I believe it's actually west of 280. I've got the map, Google Maps right here.
Well, yeah,
So-
I looked at him and I thought the line was 280, my mistake.
Yes.
I think that,
I think you need.
do you have an alternative wording which would?
I mean, the ridge line is probably the best.
I think, yeah, but I'm not, I would like to,
But
because it doesn't encompass Woodside or Portola Valley or, you know, I mean.
Those you have to call out separately.
Well, why can't, I don't
Well, anyway,
understand why.
do what you want, but 280 would be very misleading. I don't have a better wording for you, just 280 I think is not good.
Well, it's not a hard and fast line. The letter here says,
Lisa, I think the confusion is in the northern part of the county, where the west side of 280 is Daly City. So if we're talking about the southern part of the county, the
But she's
west
only
side
talking
of
within
280
District 3. Daly City is a district.
we're only
Yeah.
talking about
Doesn't matter.
District 3, and we're only saying that we don't want to take away from the existing coast-side
Right.
portion of District 3, but that has to
I
be
agree.
qualified. When we say coast-side District 3, we mean all the way down the other side of the hill there to roughly 280.
I guess I'm confused.
We don't mean to just skyline.
Right, I agree with you, yes.
All right.
Woodside and Portola Valley have
But
similar
so you're not
open space.
referring, let's say, in terms of District 5 or 4, which have quite a bit of.
They are not in, up there, that's not in the current.
Okay.
But we're only discussing
We're
District
only
3.
talking
We're
about
We're not planning to call the
current,
district.
the existing coast-side.
Right.
So that's what
Leonard's
the
got
letter
the
says.
point that it's known that the districts will be relined, so there may be some adjustments
Anyway,
up there.
just, what's the particular wording you want?
So specificity.
Third paragraph, we recommend that the existing District 3 boundaries remain relatively the same with any necessary adjustments occurring only on the bay side east of 280. And then the first bullet, the existing integrity of the coastside District 3 west of Highway 280 must remain intact. That's the existing integrity of the coastside District 3 west of 280 must remain intact. This is not,
That's clear.
it doesn't go up in Daly City or anything. The existing coastside includes Pacifica, and that's it, and then on the north end. And that's all we're saying.
Well, it makes sense to me. Do we have any more questions about it? Because I'll open it up to the community if not.
It's just, so you mean, when you say east of 280, you mean along 280 though? Like within the, not going, I mean, you can go all the way to the bay when you go east of 280.
I'm saying,
You want that
they
part
would
at one
have
time.
to adjust
Yeah.
areas east of 280, anywhere in there,
Yeah.
to fix their populations.
Mhm.
And if they're gonna adjust the population thing, they need to do it somewhere east of 280, not
West of
west of 280 is all.
I got you. I got you now. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Okay.
It's actually pretty
So
good.
that would mean that, I think the one motion is to take off part of Pacifica and to move it into.
That's
another
not our motion, no.
No, but hers would include, that is west of 280.
No,
And so-
our
Keep it
thing clearly
intact.
says, the existing integrity of coastside District 3, which is all of Pacifica,
Correct.
must remain intact.
No, I was pointing out, and there are some proposals that specifically want to.
Yeah, but we're not talking about those. We're just, we're not, we don't have a map.
I understand that, I'm just saying you were against that proposal, this would be against
Yeah,
that
it would,
proposal.
it would, yeah. it
Thank
would.
you.
May I turn this over to the public?
Sure.
All right. I'm going to open public comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Fran?
Thank you.
Okay, Fran Pollard in El Granada. And I got interested in the district maps. I went to one of their meetings over the hill back in July and with another group of people, nobody from here. And got very interested in it, and so we started playing with the maps and working on the computers, and it's a very difficult thing to do if you've tried it. And I brought a map, thank you, to add to the, and it does show, that, let me hear, it does show that the Highway 280, everything west of Highway 280 is currently in District 3, our district. And there are some unincorporated areas east of 280 that are also in the district. they probably will remain, but it's going to be up to the board to make that final decision. If they want to trade a little piece of something here for something over there, you know, they'll do that themselves, I guess. But, yeah, I thank you for modifying that letter, and I think you did a great job, and that's the main thing, is to keep our district one district, because I looked at some of the maps that people have submitted. One guy has submitted 36 different maps. And another one, let's see, the Republican Party has submitted about 12 or 15 maps, something, I forgot how many. So, you know, and I think that's diluting the whole thing. And this is why I felt that the Midcoast Council, which represents the coast-side, should be the group. It comes before you, it should have been on your agenda, and you discuss it, and anybody wants to pitch in, you know, some ideas, fine. But you're the ones representing, and I don't want us left out of this. I looked also who's on that committee of the District Lines Committee, and they left out the coast-side, just like you said before. There's nobody from the unincorporated area on the committee. I'd like to see that. Yeah, Barbara Arrieta is from Pacifica, but that's a city. I think there should have been somebody from the coast-side, and probably one of you council people. But anyway, you're not on it, so that's all the more important, or a reason to submit the letter and the map, as I hope you agree it should be. What else did I want to say? Yeah, so this is the current map. Oh, so we left it, oh yeah. At first, I was upset that the population on our district turns out to be the second highest population of all the county. And at first, why are we the highest population, you know? But in the end, after we played with the maps, and we at first did eliminate a couple of sections, I think east of Highway 101. And it brought the population down to about 147,000. That's the magic number that they're looking for each district, 147,000 in each district, or thereabouts, you know, give or take 3%, I think is the amount. So in the end, we figured, no, that doesn't really matter, whether a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there. I think, you know, as our population has grown, they may not even have all the accurate numbers in all of this. I don't know. But like I said, we need to, I think we need to take a stand and show that the coast side is concerned about this too, and that we appreciate the district as it is, more or less. We decided in the end that that's the way it should be, and if the board needs to make some adjustments, they can make it on the bay side, as Lisa said, not over here.
Okay, thank you, Fran. Leonard?
Does he just have a standing slip that runs for the whole night?
He should just be up here.
Is
But
it
he's gonna be very respectful of his fellow community residents and stick to his 3 minutes.
Yeah, probably a lot less. There's only so many things that I have time to follow, and this is not one of them. But if it's necessary to trade some areas for other areas, getting rid of part of Pacifica makes no sense at all to me, to split a city, because I see a big gap. You know, when I drive up that direction, I see a big gap between Pacifica and Daly City, so the obvious district boundary line should be between Pacifica and Daly City. In terms of what areas to look at adding into this district, the discussion was areas that are most like the coastside, but you didn't actually discuss what that means. To me, what that means is areas with large parcel size requirements, although I see that Portola Valley is already all in the district. I'm not that familiar with other areas, Hillsborough, but it'd be really hard to gerrymander the district like that. But speaking of gerrymandering, there is this one bizarro gerrymander somewhere around Palomar Park where there's an orphan section that's in District 4, which makes no sense at all.
That's at the very southern part, the little island piece.
Yeah, Emerald Lake Hills. Well, next to Emerald Lake Hills, it's hard to read the map.
I just want to answer one of these questions.
But in any case, I think that large parcel areas with a lot of open space is what is most like the coast side. And so any areas that need to be added to account for other areas that are being taken out, I think that's what needs to be looked at.
So there's a problem with that, in that we need to get the population up to the 147.
Yeah, I understand that.
And so we would have to take all huge amounts of these low-density areas that you're talking about.
Okay, Hillsborough.
To do that.
5-acre parcels there,
Well,
minimum 5 acres.
Anyway, so there are issues with that. The other piece is there's 4 other supervisory districts that are going on. That's one of the reasons why Daly City and the north part of Pacifica are kind of mulling over, because the population shifts there. So it's not, I mean, we can't do this in the vacuum, unfortunately. So there is gonna be some give and take, and that's why I think the priority is, let's first and foremost make sure that all of the coastside piece of District 3 is totally protected. And then the other piece of it is, and then where you have to go, go along 280, where it's similar, but if you start to narrowly define that, there's like 20, 30 different ways you can do it, and it gets very difficult to do that. So
Yeah.
I think we have to sort of trust that.
I was a math major, this is a math problem. I can appreciate it even though I don't have the solution.
It's very difficult.
Leonard, it's Dave.
Yeah.
Dave has
Yeah.
put something in here, and,
Anyway, we can talk about it later.
yeah, good idea.
Yeah, there was something else I was gonna say and now I forgot again.
Dave, you wanted to speak of us? Fran, you're next.
Try and keep it brief. So I do support the letter. I've spent time on the District Alliance website myself trying to redraw the districts. Our population, even when you take in Portola Valley, Woodside, and all of those, is under about 65,000. So we're getting a good chunk of one of the more densely populated areas, and it's really tough. The other thing that they try and do is balance the minority populations and the incomes. And it's not a math problem, it's a political problem.
Yeah.
And so.
It's complicated by math.
Yeah, so I support what you've said. Basically, we're trying to keep the rural sections intact, and we're also trying to keep some political power on our side, which is why we want to keep Woodside, Portola Valley with us, obviously. So, yeah, so I don't see this being a very sound process going on.
Yeah.
But I do plan to attend the meeting tomorrow, and I support the letter.
I saw your
Thank you,
map,
Dave.
by the way, it was interesting.
Fran, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to clear up something. The thing about the top, the very northern part of Pacifica, there's a group in Daly City, I believe, that wanted that so they could gain a little more power. They said they're not being heard, and they're not being well represented. So they want to take that part of Pacifica, which is much more like Daly City than it is the rest of Pacifica. And so it's that group proposing that, it's not us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's what I was trying to say. It's a demographic issue there that's out of our hands.
Yes, go ahead. Oh, that's okay.
You get your turn.
I know it's late, I'll make it quick. So, just in general, I felt this whole redistrict thing was a little unsatisfying for me. I appreciate the MCC's letter, and I support, basically, before I had read the letter, I had come to the same set of conclusions, and so I do support all the points in your letter. I found the redistricting process thus far disappointing. I used to live in Flagstaff, Arizona, up in the mountains. Our district, our congressional district, was gerrymandered in such a way that it went all the way down to Phoenix, and we had people in Scottsdale and Cave Creek and places like that selecting our representative for the entire northern part of the state. So when I heard redistricting here, I thought, okay, let's go check it out. As people have mentioned, I mean, part of the unsatisfying part of this process was the website. I mean, I appreciate the county setting it up and giving people a chance, but the lines were so thick, so clumsy, so unsatisfying. I mean, I don't know what else to say, that it just, and then you have people putting, 15 different plans out there. For what purpose? It's seemingly only to make it more complicated and more cluttered and less clear. So then when I started to play around with it, I saw that we really, because of the population requirement, there's really just not that much you can do. So again, I felt, it's kind of unsatisfying. Like I naively imagined, everything's on the table, we'll just look at it all. But it's not really that way, and I do feel like the population issue does limit our options. And though I appreciate the political clout of places like Portola Valley and Woodside and Atherton, I still remember, I have, scars on my political body from my time in Flagstaff of we were never represented because the more populous, more politically powerful areas around Phoenix decided who our representative was. Fortunately, we have Supervisor Horsley in our camp, and fortunately we have the MCC providing an excellent letter. I think that really there's no other way to go than what you've proposed, or what you've supported. So thank you for letting me make my sad comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I also have a letter that was sent to me by April Vargas, and she says she could not attend the meeting tonight, but she wanted to go on record with keeping the supervisorial district lines for District 3 as close to their current configuration as possible so that the coast side is not divided, and we continue to include Portola Valley and Woodside within our district. It makes most sense to combine the most rural communities together. And she thanks us for our representation on this and other local countywide issues. We haven't gotten that important. Okay. Could I have a motion on the table?
I just have one. Fran, on the map you gave us, which is, I think, the original boundaries, one concern that they dealt with, I think, early on, was that Supervisor Slocum and Supervisor Horsley live very close to each other. And I believe the current boundaries would place one of them in the wrong district. So did you take account of that? Because there was a fine adjustment to make sure that in proposals they were in separate districts.
The answer is yes. Oh,
Well,
okay.
if we keep the district as it is, it's Horsley's district, so it's Supervisor Horsley's district, so I
He lives-
don't see any problem there.
I checked with him, he lives up at Edgewood. Edgewood's still in there. But we reiterated in here too
The
that.
same for Slocum, you took care of the
I know, but
intent of where he lives.
I don't worry about Slocum.
Yeah, really.
And
He's on
one
his
other
own.
thing, the good thing about this is,
They can find out
like you
what
were
the-
saying, instead of, when it's time to re-elect supervisors, instead of having to campaign the entire county, which is very difficult, and especially for a co-sider, as April witnessed and did, she even thinks that even however it is as it is now, if it remains the same, it's going to be much easier for anybody campaigning from the coast side to be able to maybe have a chance of getting elected to the board, rather than it's always, like you said, the power and the money is on the Bay side, and the name recognition is on the Bay side, and that's who gets elected. And we find that we're not properly represented sometimes, although I will say Don Horsley, I think, is doing a pretty good job. He's doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Could I have a motion on the table, please?
I'll make a motion. I move approval of the draft comments as amended to the County District Lines Advisory Committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. We're now moving to council activities, correspondence received and meetings attended. I sent all of you a email of an exchange I've had with gentleman Sean in Moss Beach about the
Sunshine Valley Road.
right, anyhow, Captain Mike was unable to come to this meeting, but he did have comments on it, so, we're not gonna be able to address it. We have like 3 candidate forums, I guess, in our next 3 meetings are candidate forums. I think the best I could do is maybe talk with him and then provide his comments for the council. Does that?
Sure. See the communication, can you mumble something about what it
Speeding on Sunshine Valley Road. And the danger, speeding on Sunshine, is it posted at 25? Most people, a lot of people that are familiar do 20, way over 25.
I mean, kind of like Alhambra right here.
I thought of you when I saw the letter.
I could have brought it.
Maybe you should write a letter. Anyway. And then there's more population over now, and there's a few families with young children that live right on Sunshine Valley, and that's, I think, the gentleman's major concern. I might also add, that's where my cat got ran over. So I'm on his side.
Well, there's another issue apparently, but, well, anyhow, I'm not gonna get into it right now.
Yeah.
But I will keep everyone apprised of the situation. If you're interested, I can send you the email that I've sent out to the council. I think y'all have my email, and it's on the website as well. I can send you anything you'd like. Any other meetings attended, correspondence received?
Yeah, the Princeton Plan Steering Committee kickoff meeting happened on August 27th. There are 13 members of the steering committee, and it was just a kickoff meeting, so not really anything new to report, but I can answer any questions. How's that?
I'll ask you later.
We don't have any questions.
All right,
Okay.
just wanted to let you know.
Do you want to extend that to the community if they have some questions? If they don't have any, I can see that. Okay.
Just a quick one.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
So, there was, are we doing meetings?
Yes,
Okay.
meetings attended, yes.
So, first Friday of every month from 9:30 to 10:30, Coastside Emergency Action Program meets. They're looking at disaster preparedness and planning. Takes in most of the local agencies as well as different people from different communities. Right now, the big issue is building up a resource list of places, in case of a major disaster where we'd be cut off for more than a few days. If, where you could get food, where you could cook food, where you could place people whose homes are wrecked, where you would get bedding and things like that. So there's a big push within the community asking local businesses to basically put their name on the list. And then, of course, when something like that happens, we'll be looking at like FEMA and places like that to reimburse them later, but all that stuff is always iffy till you know exactly what. But anyway, the other thing is, I hope everybody has a disaster kit in their home, and it should be for a week, not for 3 days if you live out here. Because the county is, well, just like we were talking about district maps, 90% of the county is over there, so we're gonna be the tail of the door. Thank you.
I think even San Francisco's website is a week.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Bill.
No
Are
problem.
there any other meetings attended? Then we'll move on to committee reports and continuing business.
From the treasurer's report, we turned in our annual report to the county after it was approved at our last meeting, and we've been informed that it's been accepted, so they will be sending us a form for us to sign off and receive our check for this year.
Okay, I believe that's it, right, for committee reports? I'm going to go just briefly read future agendas, September 25th will be the candidate forum for Montero Water and Sanitary District, and that's going to be held at Seton, not in this room.
At 7, right?
At 7 o'clock,
Okay.
yes.
Just want to remind.
October 1st will be the candidate forum for the Midcoast Community Council, that will be held in this room. And October 9th is a candidate forum for Granada Sanitary District, and that will be held in this room. And I believe I could use a motion for adjournment.
Motion for adjournment?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have to go through and all
No,
those in
no.
favor?
You could just say,
I didn't think so.
anybody can yell, "I've had enough."
Does this belong
The
to
only
Fran?
time you need a motion to adjourn is when the chair doesn't want to.
Where did this come from?
So, Lisa, do you want to make the amendments to that letter?
I'm sure she would love to.
And then, are you going to